Luke is back in the new Boba Fett episode. We're just going to talk about visually what's going on here. We're not covering story. We're just talking about visual. Does Luke look good or not?
Technology, not is Luke a good looking guy. Technology. There we go. Woo! Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. So Boba Fett, Nick has been checking in on this. I haven't been checking in quite as much because like, John, you need to watch at least sections of this newest episode because there might be Grogu, Baby Yoda, and there might be a Luke Skywalker, and there's definitely a tree full of member berries. So let's check this out. And so this is interesting because we had covered a while back a gentleman that was really big in the deepfake scene had taken that, I guess, climactic episode of The Mandalorian and, you know, ILM, whoever had done the visual effect shot of Luke Skywalker, he had taken that and overnight done a, you know, admittedly a better looking version deepfaked of Luke Skywalker on that. Fast forward a number of weeks or months, and that guy was hired by Industrial Light and Magic to become part of their team and kind of teach them the ways of the deepfake force. And so I have no idea if he was a part of these shots. It would be cool to hear like if he was and what he brought to the table, but it's Nick and I haven't talked about this much ahead of time. It's fun to talk about like, what do we think was going on here? Do we think this looked better? And there's a lot going on here. So Nick, like, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there was a major improvement from the first time we saw it, which is good. That means they're learning from mistakes. Maybe they're applying CG. Maybe they're applying deepfake technology or combining it with both. I know there's 3 actors, right? You have Mark Hamill doing the voice. You have like a stunt guy who does like all the fighting and jumping stuff. And then you have an actor guy. So there's 3 guys playing Luke.
And that's, of course, how it's always going to be. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, unfortunately, does not look like old school Arnold Schwarzenegger. What? So when he was in Terminator Salvation, they had a body double that, you know, this bodybuilder, and then they would put a CG version of him on there. And same thing with Mark Hamill, or same thing with, I think, the newest Blade Runner 2049. They had the original actress, Sean Young, come in and, you know, kind of do some stand-in, do the voice, and then they had a woman that had a similar facial structure stand in, and they do a face replacement. Same thing with Carrie Fisher and Rogue One. They had one with a similar facial structure, and then they would go ahead and you know, and put the CG on top of there. Now, it's interesting, though, because if you think about Rogue One, you had a CG Carrie Fisher, you had CG Grand Moff Tarkin. This is hardcore visual effects. They're working for years on this stuff. And we're talking a handful of shots. In fact, only like 1 or 2 shots for Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, and an extreme amount of work. There was a lot of shots of Luke in this.
Yeah, which makes me think it was deepfaked.
Yes. Yeah, at least a hybrid of approaches, right?
Yes,
so
100%.
I'm very curious about this. Yeah,
because there's a lot you can get away with deepfake, especially if you're not like right in front of the camera too. But there was a lot of right in front of the camera talking shots and just like holding on it. You can tell the way they parted the hair was going to make it easier for the deepfake and stuff. And you could tell a lot of the framing was straight on. Yes, you did get a couple of side perspectives and stuff, but majority of it, he's just like looking right at the camera.
Yeah, so just to kind of fill you guys in, when the actor or actress actually looks to the side and you actually see the nose and the face actually you know, protrude out from this surface here, the deepfake can't really account for that. So it kind of breaks down there and has a harder time tracking once it doesn't have that whole face to track. So it becomes a lot harder to do shots like that. And they definitely have shots in here that do end up doing that. So
yes.
And we don't know for sure if any of these shots were deepfakes. Like, we don't know for sure. We're assuming if he really was hired on.
I mean, it did kind of look like a deepfake at times.
It would make sense, yeah.
I can tell with the eyes.
And I would say for sure some shots definitely look better than others.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, that's often the case with visual effect shots, but I'm curious if that was, for certain shots, deepfaked worked great, or they didn't work as good for others, or they're mixing and matching the CG techniques. Again, we're making some assumptions here, but it is very interesting that they, you know, kind of swooped down and grabbed this guy and had him join their team.
So cool.
And now they're getting a lot of this stuff in this episode, which is very interesting. So really, really cool. Now, what else did you notice about this?
Well, you know what, really quickly before we go on, I just had a question for you, John. With the technology where it's at now, do you think we're at a point now where we can start revisiting older IPs and having the actors' younger face in them to continue the story other than trying to recast or redo it? Do you think they're going to get to the point now where pretty soon deepfakes are going to be like Like maybe we're gonna get a Luke Skywalker movie or show now because of the quality of this stuff.
So we're definitely, I wouldn't call this bro science. We're calling this nerd science. Obviously, we don't know, right? But I would say that I don't know if it was a directorial choice, but man, Luke's acting and personality is pretty bland in this. And I don't know if it's because it's hard to do very fast acting and talking with deepfakes. Maybe it's not going to pick up on all the motions. It's not going to track well. But he did very slow movements and talking. And I don't know if that's a limitation, but he definitely was doing that. If he was doing a lot of action movements, crazy stuff, and he was doing some fighting scenes in there too.
He was moving around with the lightsaber and jumping and flipping and stuff like that.
And you would think that maybe it wouldn't be able to track those if it was moving too fast or being obstructed. So, I mean, there's some complex stuff. I just don't think it looks good enough now. I mean, down the road, maybe. Again, you're talking to the person that whatever I think is or isn't going to happen, you bet on the opposite. Like, it's like, oh yeah, cell phones, they're not going to be a thing. And then here we are, Yeah. So don't bet on what I think. Like, do you think it's going to get there? Or
I think they're going to push it there. Yeah. I mean, if they can start making movies with Luke and it sounds like Mark Hamill's on board with anything they do with younger Luke. So if they're like, well, if he's on board and we're giving him a paycheck and we can have access to one of the most popular Star Wars characters. Yeah. If it's either him or Han Solo or Chewbacca, maybe, like when it comes like, all-time favorite characters. And it's just like, if they have a chance to do a whole movie series or a TV show or, whatever, they're going to do it. This is Mickey Mouse we're talking about. Like they're going to milk it for everything it's got.
I mean, I still feel like it would almost be safer to start off. Like we're still very much in Uncanny Valley territory. I still feel like we need to get beyond the Uncanny Valley, and that's probably easier to do with non-known actors first. Like, okay, we've never seen this actor before. It's a CG actor, but we've never seen this person before, so we don't know what they should look like, what their range of movement should be like. Let's start off with that first, and when that's convincing, now we try to do it with actors, which we already know what their range is. And then when you get into that, I'd honestly, me myself, this is preference, I'd still rather have CG animated, like Clone Wars type stuff. I'd still rather have that, but some people like live action and they don't like animated stuff. So it's a personal preference, but I definitely right now it feels like it's a long way off. But then again, man, in just a handful of years, things can come a long way. Just the fact that have this show on YouTube, filming with consumer cameras and stuff like that, it's a handful of years ago, 10 years ago, we couldn't be doing stuff like that. So it's very interesting that add that down the road, and maybe we are at a spot where, I mean, we do have phone apps that can do face swaps, maybe not to the extent that and detail that deepfakes can, but if you kind of see those two technologies merging, and maybe branches will do that. Yeah,
it's so quickly. And yes, we've dabbled with deepfakes here on this channel, but let us know what you think. Let us know if you liked it, if you thought it looked awkward or bad, or if you're just like, I'm not digging this, or like, yes, I'm digging this. Give me more Luke. Like, I would love to hear your guys' comments down below. I know John's very on the fence, but maybe we can use the force and be like, you like the way it looks. This is the face you're looking for.
That's so weird. But
this is the software you're looking at.
It is cool to follow the progression of the big face replacement attempts over time and seeing the progression. I mean, still to me, the best example, and we've talked about this on the channel, is the most recent Terminator Dark Fate. Not a movie I liked, but the Edward Furlong really quick, though, and young Sarah Connor. But it looked really good.
Really quick, really good, but like very impressive for how long he was on screen for. So I'm very impressed with what they came up with. And final note, did you scrub to the end to see the blue alien?
Yeah, with the red eyes.
Yeah,
like
okay.
Cowboy alien.
Yeah, did you like that? Did you think it looked good, or did it look too much like the mouth of Sauron with the mouth, or were you just digging it like, this is cool because this is Star Wars, like this is like blue bounty hunter with red eyes? Like, what do you think?
I actually totally thought of the mouth of Sauron with that, which is funny, but we're Lord of the Rings heads, so it makes sense that we would think of that. But you know what? I wasn't even thinking of it as much as Star Wars, as this is a Western. And I thought, you know what? He fits as a Western. He has this big reveal. He has his, his face kind of obscured, and then he lifts it up and it has the reveal. It's
and we'll
fine.
leave it there.
We'll leave it at that.
I thought it looked really good. I thought it looked good.
Oh, it looked good. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just talking about the way it looked. I'm not talking about the character. Remember, we're doing visuals here.
Yes.
If you want us to talk about the show, let us know. We'll get expert Kyle on. He loves to go deep into this stuff and really.
And by the way, the lip syncing on the alien was really, really cool. Like the movement and everything looked really cool.
Good.
And I wasn't looking to see if it was,
don't even
how they did
that.
it, but it looked really, really cool. It was fun. I just liked the idea of a Western, kind of setting in the Star Wars universe, and I liked the idea.
Well, it goes with the bounty hunter themes.
Yes, and whether I'm a huge fan of all the spin-off Star Wars stuff or not, I like the idea that they're just not trying to keep it all within this Skywalker storyline. There's a whole universe they can branch out and tell other stories without having to stick to that, and they can find success with that too, which is great. And you know what? If they need to sprinkle in things like the Luke and Grogu thing, fine. It's as long as that doesn't become the focus. We have to have this, or we have to have a whole series just on this. I mean, we're kind of already doing that with Boba Fett, right? Like Boba Fett is, a fan.
Well, it's funny because I feel like the episodes people like the most, and the ones I like the most, is when I see the Mandalorian and then Luke. I'm not a fan right now of the Boba Fett stuff, but that's where we're going to end it. If you want us to really go deep dive with the Boba Fett show, let us know, because we would love to go down there if you guys are willing to listen to us talk about it. But if not, we'll stick to the visual stuff.
Yeah. Really fun stuff, you guys. Let us know what you think. Are you excited to reach a day, not just for technical merits, but for story too? Are you excited to get to a point where we can resurrect actors? Or do you think we should just stick with the catalog they did while they were living, or while they were in that age of their career, and we should not try and mess with that? Like, that's a fun conversation to have. So please leave that down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.